which NFL teams are making the playoffs and who's staying home. It's Who's In, Who's Out on 97.3 ESPN FM, South Jersey's football station.
All right, what do you know? Who's in, who's out? These are the 12 teams we believe will be in the playoffs after 3 weeks of football. We'll start in the AFC East. Around the room, if you don't have Patriots, you're fired.
Patriots for me.
Pats.
In the North, Pete Thompson, where are you going?
I'm going with the Steelers again. Despite the egg that they laid at Soldier Field, I still think the Steelers have the edge in the NFC North, and I think they're the ones that win and come out on top of that division. I know there's other teams to look at, but I'm going with the Steelers.
Ravens can't stay healthy. Browns are the Browns. Bengals stink, so Steelers.
I like how he said there's other teams to look at, like the Steelers playing the division all by themselves. Good work out of you, Thompson. I'm going Pittsburgh as well. In the South, Josh Hennig, you have the floor.
Titans, still going with the Titans. Their offensive line dominated the Seahawks.
An emphatic Titans vote right there.
I mean, listen, that offensive line dominated the Seahawks. DeMarco Murray, people didn't know he was even going to play. He still rushed for over 100 yards. Marcus Mariota just seems to get better every single game. Titans.
I put the Titans in last week. That was the first week I was able to rubber stamp them, and they did nothing this week to dissuade me, including the fact that they beat Seattle. Like Josh said, DeMarco Murray, good game. Titans are my team.
I like Tennessee, too. They got a great line. And by the way, we said last week, this is the kind of game against Seattle. That's a good Seattle team. They're traveling to you to prove that you're legit. You got to win that type of game. You got to win a home game against a good team like that. Tennessee did it, and they did it emphatically. I like Tennessee in the South. In the West, do we have any changes from the two Raider heads?
Yes.
Come to the dark. Come to the red side,
and
my friend.
You know what our change is. I've got KC in there. You too, right, Chuck?
Listen, the way the Raiders lost to the Redskins really has me concerned about
troubled. Yes.
Just how that team has really got where their heads are at, whereas the Chiefs haven't missed a step yet.
Come to the red side.
Yeah, so
Chiefs, by the way, have scored 93. They've only given up 57. That's a plus 36 by my math, Pete Thompson. I like the Chiefs to start the year, and I'm not wavering. Kansas City might appear very high on that list of the Fine Five tomorrow, by the way.
I didn't realize this. The Rams have a high differential, too. The Rams are plus
they've
32.
Scored 40-plus twice this year.
Jacksonville plus 38. Those are the top three teams.
Josh Hennig, your wild cards.
Differential.
I'm putting the Raiders in the wild card, and I have a new wild card team this week. I am taking the Houston Texans and putting them in because they almost beat the Patriots in Foxborough. They almost broke the streak of rookie quarterbacks losing in Foxborough.
Wild card in the AFC
is difficult.
It's very difficult.
However,
by the way,
Texans.
The second wild card in the AFC, all the options virtually lost this week. You picked a team that lost and is 1-2, by the way.
I picked the team that was most impressive in the
There you go. Pete Thompson, second your two wild cards are?
Oakland is my one wild card because they lost the Redskins. I had them as the West winner last week. They dropped to a wild card spot. My second wild card team, though, is the one that's notable. In week 2, I picked this team to win the division. That's the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville and what they did against the Baltimore Ravens elevates them to wild card status.
By the way, Jacksonville, a plus 38 on the season, is actually better than the Chiefs' plus 36. I got Oakland and Denver making the wild cards for me. Baltimore, that was embarrassing. I can't buy the Bills just yet. Jacksonville, same problem. Houston, I like where you're thinking on that. They would be in the mix of the next teams in, but I'm going Denver as the number 2. It's even though it's a bad loss, you're on the road in the NFL. That's tough. I still think Denver's defense shines out of this group of dreck in the AFC. On the NFC side of things, let's work from the West up, boys. How about the West? I'll go Josh Hennig to start things off.
I'm still sticking with the Seahawks. They're flawed, but of all the teams in the West, they may be the least flawed when you get down to it. I just don't see the Rams winning this division. You saw what the Cardinals did last night. I mean, you got to win a game like that. You can't even do it. I mean, come on, that's bad.
This was a difficult decision for me, too, but I'm sticking with Seattle. It's hard to stick with a team that's 1-2, but the teams that they have lost to, including Tennessee, who we definitely think is a playoff team, that's not the worst loss in the world. Seattle has to go across the country and lose to Tennessee. The Rams have not completely sold me yet, even though they are 2-1. And like Josh said, what Arizona did last night, you said it too, Mike Gill. Arizona's kind of proven themselves to be definitely on the out category.
They're not bringing me back in, Arizona. I said it last week. Seattle's offensive line could play them out of a playoff spot. I'm not ready to go there just yet. Losing on the road to Tennessee isn't an embarrassing loss. But that offensive line is a legit issue. It's a legit issue. And L.A. plus 32. They've scored over 40 twice.
Yeah, but remember,
Keep them in the queue there.
The Seahawks lost at Green Bay, at Tennessee, 2 potential playoff teams.
I'm still going
One
Seattle.
of the Rams wins is over the 49ers.
I got you.
He's just saying
keep an eye on them. Keep them in the queue. In the South, Pete Thompson.
Change for me in the South. I'd been going the Bucks. I went Bucks in week 1, and then I couldn't take them out in week 2 because they didn't play in week 1. Remember that game got postponed because of Irma. Had them there in week 3. Well, then they go out and lose to the Vikings. They don't just lose to the Vikings. They really looked poor in that game against Minnesota, in Minnesota. I know it's on the road, but that means Atlanta, boom, they are in as my NFC South winner. What's Atlanta done? Just win.
I had them in week 1. I had them in week 2. I'm sticking with them in week 3. The Falcons may be the best team in the NFC.
I hate that I have Atlanta. I hate that I'm liking Atlanta. I hate that I'm buying into Atlanta. But right now, I got to buy into Atlanta.
Hey, look, you brought us to the red side. We're bringing you to the dark side,
Yeah,
okay?
I'm on the black side for Atlanta. I feel like, where's my Deion Sanders Dirty Birds jersey?
Where did this anti-Atlanta sentiment come from?
I don't know. My whole life, them stinking.
I remember last year that you weren't high on Atlanta,
Yeah.
and then they ended up in the Super Bowl.
That's right. Well, based on their entire existence, they've let you down your whole life. They had the 1 year in 1998 that South Park made an episode out of.
Eugene Robinson?
Yes. Gorak, the frozen caveman. You remember that episode?
I do.
The Atlanta Falcons are going to the Super Bowl. What year is this?
Cheesy poops. Okay.
North time.
North, that's the Packers for
Bundle
me.
up. It's cold up there, PT.
Yes.
Cheeseheads.
Yeah, Packers for me. Josh agrees. Packers.
That's a tough one, man.
The Vikings had a good win, but
Packers are, by the way, 67-4, 67 against. Even Steven. That's a division that I think is going to be very interesting. I don't know that Green Bay's as good as we thought they were. They had some injury problems so far. I got Aaron Rodgers, though. But Matthew Stafford, I think, right now, has the highest odds to win the MVP in the NFL right now. How about that? I'm going Green Bay, though, in the North, but it's flip of a coin so far.
maybe if they lost last night, my NFC East team would have changed. But I've had Dallas all 4 weeks now. Dallas in week 1, Dallas in week 2, Dallas in week 3.
We get it, 4 in a row.
Yeah.
Next.
I went with Eagles. I went with the Eagles last week. I'm sticking with them this week.
All right, and I started the year with the Giants. I made a switch to Dallas. By the way, all 12 teams of mine are exactly the same from last week.
Oh, that's
so
not
I've got
the same
Dallas winning the division in the East. And the wild cards, Pete Thompson.
Well, I took them out of the South Division winner, but I made them a wild card team still. Tampa Bay is my wild card team 1. And then I've put in, I believe, for the first time this season, the Minnesota Vikings. You win with your backup quarterback, and you beat a team that I consider to be a playoff team going into the matchup. That elevates you to wild card status. Minnesota gets my wild card 2 spot.
None of my NFC teams have changed. Only my AFC teams have changed. I'm still going Bucks for the wild card, and I'm still going Lions for the wild card. That was a bogus call at the end of that game. Golden Tate, that was a touchdown. Lions should have won that game. I think the Lions have had 2 straight weeks of impressive play.
Yep.
Got to give them credit.
I have the Lions in there as well. And the second wild card is tough. I mean, Minnesota is under consideration. Carolina not as impressive. You got Washington, L.A. I like the Bucks as well. I'm not giving up on them, even though they didn't look good. But I'm going to go Philadelphia as the second wild card over Minnesota right now, because I think Minnesota, Detroit, and Green Bay, that's going to be a tough road through. So Philly, Detroit, they're my 2 wild cards. All 12 teams for me. Same as last week. I can't believe it. I don't know that's ever happened before.
I've had back-to-back weeks where nothing's changed, but this week I had a lot of changes.
That's because you were reading off the same paper.
No, it's not. That's not true. This is just a week where the Bucs didn't do anything to stay in their spot. Tennessee, Jacksonville coming in, Minnesota. I've got a lot of changes on mine.
All right. And only the 2 changes for Josh.
Only 2 AFC changes.
Okay, who's in, who's out? There they are, the 12. Tomorrow at this time, it is the Fine 5 and the Ugly 5, the 5 best and 5 worst NFL teams. Listen for that coming up on tomorrow's show.